What's up, Sushi Squad? We back again for some more Trove, and today we're going to be talking about the Dino Tamer. It's been a long time coming since I made a proper tutorial about this guy. Now, I'm going to let you guys know right off the hop, I'm a bit lazy. I didn't end up swapping all my gems or everything like that to the Dino Tamer, so you'll have to excuse the stat values that I have, but rest assured I know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to end up explaining to you guys and gals how you're going to end up building this character. For those of you that don't have all the time in the world to end up watching through this video, the short answer is you're going to be building it towards DPS. And yes, this is going to end up being one of the faster characters, definitely top 3 for a speed farming character, and can end up doing a decent amount of damage in the delves. But before we get started with the video, I gotta let you guys know, if any of you watching are new to Trove, you can use that sign up link that's down in the description. And then if you, for whatever reason, end up deciding to buy anything out of the cash shop, I'll end up making a percentage of that. It's an awesome way that you can support me by literally just playing the game. It helps me pay the bills. Thanks Gamago so much for the opportunity, and more so than that, thank you fine people watching at home who have actually done that, because it has made a significant impact on my life. Like, seriously, when YouTube's not paying the bills as much, Gamago picks up the slack, and I strongly appreciate you guys for doing that. Strongly appreciate, is that even a way to say it? Who cares? Anyways, so the Dino Tamer can end up being a speedy boy. Like, seriously, you can end up being, he might even be the second fastest character, maybe even, I don't want to say he's faster than the Neon Ninja, because I know that it's not, but you can be pretty darn close, especially because this character can be pretty consistent with its speed, and I would argue is better at clearing dungeons than the Neon Ninja, just because Dino Tamer's got some pretty decent damage. Now, he's not going to end up being the best for the delves or anything like that. You can still use Dino Tamer in the delves, but honestly speaking, what your objective is going to be in the delves is you're a speedy boy. You want to run to the end so that all the stronger characters end up killing everything and clearing the objective, and then you're at the end waiting so that when that first objective is cleared, everybody gets teleported, right? Yeah. Let me just hop into U8 Geode Surface just so I can give you guys kind of the rundown of how this character is going to end up operating, because that's going to end up being the most important part, is how you're going to play him. Because you are basically going to be trying your best to keep your ult up 24/7. That is how this character works, because while you are on your ult, you are going to be a speedy boy. Again, I don't have the best stats. I can't show you guys all of this, but basically they ended up making it a while back now, where the movement speed that you have on your gear is going to affect the movement speed that you have with your ult, which is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy to say the least. Like you'll see right here, I'm at 148 movement speed, and if I swap my hat, I'm at 144. So yeah, it can get pretty crazy if you end up having max movement speed gear, which, spoiler alert, that's what you're going to be working towards. So anyways, the thing about the Dino Tamer is that like most characters in the game, a lot of his abilities are going to end up being pretty useless. Your Dino babies, don't even bother. It's just a waste of an animation. That's kind of the thing, is it's like you could end up throwing one of them down, or you could just end up spending that same amount of time to just do damage yourself, or throw down a net, because the net is going to be like, this thing does a lot of damage. It really does, dude. It just shreds through enemy health bars. And though, again, I want to reiterate that you're not going to end up turning any heads when you're in the delves or anything like that, it can be pretty good to end up having a Dino Tamer in your group, just because the net is also going to end up snaring any enemies that are inside it. So basically, you'll end up having somebody vacuum all the enemies in. Maybe you throw down your Dino Tamer net. It's going to prevent those enemies from moving around for everybody else to end up doing mega damage to them. And it's a really nice combination, right? Like, I like using this guy for that. But anyways, you're going to be using your ult so that you can end up having your movement speed, and you're using your laser and stuff, and every time you throw down your net, it's going to end up being at maximum power. One of the big things about the Dino Tamer that people always seem to forget is that this guy was always very high level of survivability, just because you don't actually have to deal with any energy, so you can jump around like a freak and use all of your movement speed to your advantage, for the simple fact that you can actually just dodge like a crazy person and still end up outputting the same amount of damage. You're not reliant on staying on the ground and waiting for your energy to regen or anything like that, right? Now, Unfortunately, you're going to be popping flasks like crazy just so that you can end up triggering your ult as much as possible. Just because when it runs out, you're very vulnerable and you don't want to end up dealing with that. Unfortunately, it means that you are going to have a lot of jump just because you won't be able to use your wings. Not that anybody super duper at the end game uses their wings that often in the first place, but I'm just trying to make you guys understand that it's fine if you end up going for some jump at first. Eventually, you should end up having enough jump just passively from dragons and whatever else, and mastery. Or does mastery give you jump? I don't know. It's been years since I've gotten stats from mastery. But anyways, you can have a little bit of jump here and there if you want to. As far as the emblems and everything like that, well, I guess we'll talk about the subclass ability. I'm supposed to be using lunacy on this, so excuse me for having my knight subclass ability. I'm used to having this on every character, but you're definitely gonna want lunacy mode because it has a random chance of triggering lunacy where you're gonna end up going big mode when you end up damaging enemies. And if that triggers, you get more movement speed. Yeah, so that is really, really good. You'll get attack speed as well, so it's definitely something to keep in mind. And when lunacy triggers, oh boy, not only are you doing damage, you are going fast, boy. I rhymed boy with boy. I'm tired, okay? Excuse me. As for your potions and emblems and what have you, the starting emblems that you're going to be focusing on is the Arcane Emblem because it's going to give you raw damage. And then for your secondary, more than likely, you're going to be using Sure Strike just because it's going to give you that extra percentage to your crit hit. As you end up increasing your stats and slowly moving away from Sure Strike because you have more crit hit, and slowly moving away from Arcane just because you're doing enough raw damage without having to pop a flask, then you can end up swapping out for Trailblazing just because it's going to give you that movement speed, and a must, Chromatic Emblem, because you want to reduce your cooldown as much as possible because this character is 100% reliant on your ultimate ability. I'm using the wrong ally. That's embarrassing. But anyways, out of the new allies in the game, so any of my previous class tutorials, this is basically one of the only big things that ended up changing since my 2019 class tutorials is now we actually have the Delves. And the Delves have given us the same allies that were the best allies in the entire game, except these ones will actually give us light value. So it's up to you whether or not you want to end up using Avier, or I'm probably butchering that name, but basically this one will give you the movement speed boost when you attack enemies. I'd recommend you go with Puck, if anything, just because this is going to be the one that increases cooldown recovery or decreases your cooldowns. I still find it weird that they say increase cooldown recovery speed by 25%. Like somebody on the dev team thought it was a better idea than just cooldown reduction. I don't know. But anyways, it's going to really, really help out for when you are using your ult. So it basically, the more damage you do, the quicker you kill the enemies, which are a threat to you, which gives you more survivability because you shouldn't really have that much health on any of your characters if you've built them correctly. As for your banner, which this doesn't seem to be, I don't know. The banner doesn't really matter too much. I just use a Nitro one because any type of character that I try to use in Geode Surface, I want to have a Nitro banner just in case I end up going for any Nitro. Not that I farm for it regularly or anything like that. But you can get these banners from Delves. There's a couple others that you can end up crafting that are probably going to end up being a bit better for you. But the best banners or torches, whatever, are always going to end up being the items that you get from Leviathans. But that requires you to actually go out of your way and farm them, which I haven't done in quite a while, honestly speaking. As for a ring, it's entirely up to you what you want to go for, whether or not you need the extra crit hit or you just need the jump. I don't have ideal stats or items on this character, so again, keep all of that in mind. Otherwise, for your gear and the stats that you want to have on your gear, you want to have all your crystal gear have movement speed and attack speed because obviously you don't need energy regen, and it is going to be better for you to have the excuse me, have the raw attack speed instead of having something like crit hit or crit damage or whatever. I mean, if you're earlier in the game, maybe you'll want to just take the raw damage rather than being speedy, but the whole point is that through the end game, you're trying to focus on being as quick and as efficient at doing dungeons as possible, and that's where there is no room for that extra bit of damage. Now, if you're trying to focus a Dino Tamer on the delves, then obviously you're not going to focus as much on speed, just because you might want to be building towards damage. But honestly speaking, I wouldn't recommend it, just because there's going to be other characters that will be able to do better in the delves for less effort. That's kind of the thing about Trove, is there's certain characters that are good at delves, certain characters are good at dungeon farming, and Dino Tamer is hella good at dungeon farming. Now, as far as your gems are concerned, I don't think that I have good gems on this character, so I'm just going to end up using my Tomb Raiser as the example, just because that's where I have all of my magic gems, and I just can't be bothered to swap them all over. I wish there was a quick and easy loadout option in Trove or something like that, right? But anyways, moving over to the Gem Forge. Obviously, I'm not going to talk in super detail about the gems, because at this point, I'm expecting that you understand the concept of how the gems work. And if you don't, well, I already have tutorials on it. I could probably stand to do a 2020 tutorial on gems if I haven't already. I'll have to double check on that one. But anyways, for all of your cosmic gems, you're going to want to go for light. So 3 pearls into light, and then magic damage, crit damage. For the gem itself, it's entirely up to you. Berserk Battler is basically going to end up giving you more attack speed, but most of all, it's going to give you more light. So that's good for the extra damage. But if you're already doing enough damage anyways, you're going to want to go for the Vampiric Cosmic Gem, just because it's going to give you a small chance of increasing your movement speed once you're damaging enemies or killing enemies or whatever. For your baby Cosmic Gems, it's going to be the same thing. 3 in light as much as you can. It's going to be really difficult to do at first. And then as far as the rest of your gems are concerned, it's going to be a 6:3 ratio. So 6 of your gems are going to end up having the exact same rolls that you see here on this empowered gem. So you're going to have 2 pearls into magic damage, 1 into crit damage, and then just have crit hit extra. Okay, you're going to do that with all of your empowered gems, and then 3 of your lesser gems are going to end up having the same stats, and then another 3 of the gems, let me find an example right here, is instead going to be 2 crit damage, 1 magic damage, and then crit hit. Now, if you end up having over 100% crit hit, you can swap out any extra crit hit if you can sacrifice it for some more max health. It's not really going to make that much of a difference when you're at the end game. Enemies hit like trucks, so it doesn't really matter, but just keeping it in mind that you can do it if you want to, right? So then, of course, for the empowered gem abilities that you want to go for on the normal ones, I should have talked about it in the same category as the cosmic gem. I'm sorry. Cubic Curtain is a good one to have, just because it gives you a lot more survivability, but generally speaking, it's not required. Pyro Disc, that one is always required. I don't have a Pyro Disc on my Tomb Raiser because it doesn't really matter too much, but you want to have a Pyro Disc on your Dino Tamer, just because when it triggers, it's going to give you even more movement speed on top of everything else. And then you definitely want to end up having your Class Gem ability on the Dino Tamer as well. Let me actually see, do I have a Pyro Disc on him? Yeah, I do. Level 1 and physical damage, ew. But just to give you guys an example, yeah, you want to have Pyro Disc, and then you definitely want to have your Class Gem ability. That's got max health. That's disgusting. Oh, and as far as the potions are concerned, I always just go with Death Defying, because if you have built your character correctly, as in all damage, no health, you're probably going to get one shot by everything. So if you don't end up using any of the defensive emblems, you're going to be spamming pots and just dodging like a freak. So I always just like to use Death Defying as a quick, easy go-to, especially when you get to the lower delves, or if you're just doing U10 and stuff like that. You can sacrifice it for, I don't know, conjurers or something like that if you want, if you really think that you're good enough, or if you like that style of play, the risk reward factor, because technically if you end up taking other flasks, you can dungeon grind for longer before you have to refill your flask, but it's not like that's a super difficult thing to do anyways. And I would rather take the hit, have a pot get consumed because of Death Defying, rather than die and lose some gear that I potentially ended up seeing dropped on the ground while I'm dead. Anyways, thanks for watching, gamers. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and hopefully it ended up covering everything you wanted to know about the Dino Tamer and the end game for this character and how you end up building it in 2020. I'm trying to rush out updated tutorials on all these characters, because a couple things changed. I don't know. A lot of you guys have been requesting that I do updated tutorials on all the classes and stuff like that. I do have some of them already for 2020 in general, so you can always check those out with the playlist down below. Otherwise, have yourselves a fantastic day. Smash like, sub for more, buy the merch you want, support the channel, and have a great day. Sign on and stay up, gamers.